Yes, good afternoon. You're tuning in to Running Straight's 3 minutes past 3 on the 26th of April. And man, we've got a big show to you today. Brought to you by South Seas Healthcare, Auckland's largest Pacific wellbeing provider. Don't forget, if you want to ask a question, you can ring on text it on 8833, our Temper Bedpost text machine, or call us on 0800 150 811. And feel free, you text any questions you have today, because I'm joined by the great Surly, who's coming for Sammy, who, unfortunately, last night, Surly, the excitement of calling that game, thinking that the Warriors got home, he's lost his voice. I know he's listening. Probably ears are still working, Keza. But thanks a lot for coming in, mate. What do you think of last night's game?
Yeah, I don't blame Sam, to be fair. That was one that was quite emotional as a fan watching it at home. You know, you're yelling at the TV screen the whole time, whether it was to do with the ref or just that big momentum shift. But obviously, initial reaction straight away, I was proud with the boys. Again, they were faced with adversity, a lot of injuries, and some harsh calls that didn't go our way. I think Melbourne certainly turned it up in the second half, but I'd like to think if we were at full strength for that whole 80 minutes, I think we could have pulled off a famous win.
Yeah, it was, I guess, one of those games when you thought at 22-12 that 10 points probably wasn't enough, and if they could score again, they could get away with them. What parts of the game did you enjoy from the Warriors last night, apart from the back end of it where they really dug in and showed some resilience again? But what part of the game, for me, it was just how crisp they were on offence. What about you?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think our start was great again, which obviously, apart from last week, that had been a real Achilles heel to our season. So I thought our starts were great, and just our ability to ball play. Guys like Dylan Walker, Tohu especially when he was on the paddock, we just look so much crisper when we're playing that kind of 1-2 out. It allows SJ a bit more freedom as well. So I was really impressed with our attack. It was great to have Dallin back out there scoring tries, doing what he does best. And like you mentioned, that goal line defence, that's all heart really, isn't it? So it was great to see the boys show up with that attitude again that we've come accustomed to this season with the Warriors.
The stats before the game and post-game as well showed that it was actually going to be a pretty even contest. I couldn't believe that the TAB was giving them 12 start. The Warriors were saying all last week on breakfast with Kempy and Izzy that 12 and a half starts way too much, and even though they lost that game by 70 points last year. But if you have a look at the game last night, they both had they completed 35 sets, so both in the 80% completion rate. They both had 50% of the possession. But for me, I just think at the back end of the game when we lost our bench, and those injuries are obviously we're seeing today with the naming of the team, and we'll name that later on in the show for the game against the Roosters. But it just took away the importance of that change coming later on in the game. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, I think fatigue was a massive factor. Obviously, we had no one to bring on, and you could see some of the big boys like Bunty especially, they were blind because their workload really did increase. And I think also those 6 more calls, that they were going in Melbourne's favour, and rightly so for a lot of them, and it just allowed them to really get a roll on. And then guys like Munster and that just injecting themselves off the back of Nelson, who was a huge coming back. Obviously, they've been missing him lately. He dominated that middle. They were getting some quick play the balls, fresh set restarts, kind of all just played into Melbourne's hands. But again, our lads didn't roll over. They were getting up and giving it everything. So you have to be proud as a Warriors fan.
We've heard, Webby come out and say that, that he was proud in the post-match conference. Like, everyone was proud of the effort that they had last night, especially of the middle guys that couldn't get rotated back at that back end of the game. Do you think what we saw last night, especially from those teams that are at the top and they're starting to rise? The Roosters won last night against St George. Melbourne got us last night. The importance of their key players and what it means to the Warriors when we lose our key players, the importance of not having them there. Did you see the difference in that?
Yeah, I think especially whenever we have Tohu on the park, you just get a bit more assurance about the boys, and you can see it's such a lift to them. I think there was a stat going around the other week, we only concede 14 when he's on the paddock, and it's in the 30s in games where he's not. So he's obviously very inspirational for the lads. Yeah, we just miss, when you look at the outs, Mitch Barnett, Wade Egan, the fact that we're really pushing these so-called top sides just shows that we really are a top 8 and finals footy contender this year. How do
you think everyone's feeling after last night's game? Like for myself especially, I left SENZ, I was actually happy, not that we lost the game, but that I'd finally been they'd sort of been put to bed, the thought that the Warriors weren't going to compete for this whole year. That effort last night for me, even though we lost, I think there's mitigating factors why we lost in the end, but even though we lost, I walked away from here I was on cloud nine. I just thought, man, if they can get in the 8, this team can really challenge up those top teams that are possibly above them or just below them if they do get into the 8.
Yeah, I was really nervous heading into that game just because of the old Anzac hoodoo over the past couple of years. So the fact that we shot out to an early lead, we were in the arm wrestle the whole game despite everything that was thrown our way. Yeah, it almost didn't feel like a loss. So you take those. Now the boys come back to Mount Smart. She's going to be a sold-out crowd, so that'll give them another massive lift. And yeah, this game this week becomes even more important, but I'll be backing them. But yeah, it almost didn't feel like a loss.
Yeah, no, you're dead right, Surly, and I wanted to get that little review out of the way early because we've got a big show today. We've got some giveaways. We've got 4 tickets, actually, to some general admission tickets, so we're going to give them to the 4 best texters today. Just text in on 8833, our Temper Bed Post text machine, and if we like your text, we'll email you those tickets and you can go along because there'll be another 23,000 people there. Also, are you one New Zealand Warriors one big fan? Because today we kick it off. It's if you're a whiz at Warriors Trivia or just a diehard fan, then One New Zealand are looking for you. You could win a VIP trip to a game in Australia for the 2024 season. Signed Warriors merch, a brand new mobile phone, an unlimited data plan, and exclusive use of home-based One New Zealand's VIP grandstand for a game. Tell us how you're the one big Warriors fan. Phone 0800 37 GO Warriors to leave a voicemail. It's your year. Hashtag, it's our year. And I'll tell you what, after last night, Surly, it certainly is our year. We've also got Matty Johns coming up in a couple of minutes' time, so we'll get to a break here right now, brought to you by South Seas Healthcare, Auckland's largest Pacific wellbeing provider. Yes, it's 14 minutes past 3 and you're listening to Running It Straight. Text us any time on the Temper Bedpost text machine, 8833. And today, if you're a lucky texter, we'll also give you a ticket to go and see the Warriors this Sunday. A general admission ticket's there for you, which we'll email out to you if Keza thinks that you deserve that. We've got Surly in the house today talking rugby league with us, but we've also got Matty Johns joining us on the telephone right now. He's the voice of Sydney, and it comes to no surprise that last night's game at Amy Stadium between the Warriors and the Storm was another epic match. Here's what Andrew Webster had to say.
Yeah, it was hard. You could see how hard the boys were trying to hang in there. And I think there was actually a period there, if we actually got a call or something went our way, we were probably still a fighting chance. And they would have found a bit of belief, but they just kept trying, all the way to the end. I've seen those situations blow out and put 3 tries on a team late, and even 4 tries, and the boys hung in there, and really proud of that. So it was hard, but we owned a couple of moments we could have really come home swinging. But I was proud of the boys.
Hey Matty, thanks for joining us this afternoon, mate. Did you see it like that?
Yeah, I thought there was some really. I thought Andrew was really measured there. I think a lot of coaches would have walked into the press conference last night, and I think would have really blown up. And there were a couple of really tough calls against the Warriors, but he didn't use it any sort of excuse. I thought they were really brave, Kempy. They've been fantastic. I mean, traditionally that game in the last, certainly the last 5-6 seasons has been completely dominated by the Melbourne Storm. And, we anticipated it to be a close game. What was going for the Melbourne Storm? Melbourne had a big, long layoff after what was a poor performance against Manly. So I knew they were going to be on their game and really up for it. And the fact that the Warriors, in my opinion, were really unlucky last night just shows the quality of the football that they're playing. There was the one with Remus Smith and knock on for the try for Nick Meaney. I thought in particular, I thought that was a really tough call.
Yeah, 6 hands in and around the ball, and you thought the bunker would have at least said, "Well, I can't make my mind up. That's a no try." Mate, Matty, I've got a text. I'm going to go straight to the text machine here because I've got one from Doug. He says, "Can you ask Matty if he feels that the Warriors are getting a fair go by the officials?"
Look, Kempy, I thought last night. I thought last night they didn't get the rub of the green. But I think all in all, look. I know there is the traditional rivalry Australia versus New Zealand, but Kempy, everyone I speak to here, they're wrapped in the Warriors, and they're so happy for the Warriors to be going well. Given the sacrifices that the club has had to make in the previous few seasons during COVID, and I think rugby league people probably selfishly know that you need a strong Warriors in the competition. And so I don't think there's any bias against the Warriors. I actually think it's the opposite. But of course, sometimes you've got human error. You've got that officiating where things are going to happen. There's going to be some tough calls. You get the rub of the green some weeks, and other times it goes against you. But no, Kempy, I think there's a lot of goodwill towards the Warriors. I don't think there's any conspiracies there at all.
Matty, it's Surly here. I thought the injection of Nelson Asafa-Solomona off the bench was a real turning point last night in that game. What do you think he brings to that Storm pack? Just his aggression, his ball carrying. He was very hard for our forward pack to handle.
Oh, look, he's hard for anyone to handle. It's just the size of the guy. Like there's a few times he's just impossible to handle one-on-one. And Kempy was a playmaker. He knows he'd be a playmaker's dream on the edge. Because you don't have to be too clever. All you got to do is get in one-on-one with someone, and they just can't handle him. Yeah, he had a huge impact in the game, and of course he's re-signed with the Storm. I mean, the audacity of the Wallabies were saying that they wanted to pinch him. They're making all sorts of comments over here. The Wallabies, you think them unbelievable. But as Brandon Smith said, you're going to need more than Joseph Suaalii to beat the All Blacks, and I support that.
Mate, well, who wins a scrap, Matty, between a wallaby and a kangaroo?
Oh, kangaroo, of course. A kangaroo is a tough working-class person. The wallaby, I don't know. The wallaby wears one of those tweed coats with leather patches on it.
Hey, mate, just talking about the game last night, where you're sitting there at the back end of it, and unfortunately for the Warriors, they lost their bench, and you could smell the likes of Harry Grant, Munster, and Jerome Hughes going, mate, the middle is absolutely for the taking here?
Yeah, well, I was sitting watching it with my young bloke, Cooper. We were sitting watching it on the couch, and he picked it, where they flashed at Tohu, who was on the sideline, a couple of all the injuries, and he said, mate, Harry's going to cut this game open in the last 15, 20 minutes, and that's what happened. I went to the Anzac Day game at Allianz yesterday before the Warriors and the Storm game, and I was in the nosebleed seats. I mean, treating them, they don't look after me there. I was up, honestly, I was like a kite. I was that high up in the stadium, but I was overlooking the game, and it really gave a great perspective of where the game has gone and where the space is. All the space is just through the middle. And the moment an opposition side is fatigued, the middle defenders they just can't sustain pressure upon pressure upon pressure. Particularly when you got Munster made that great run through the middle, and then you got Harry Grant and of course Jerome jumping about. It was just too much for the Warriors. They just ran out of gas. And then on top of that, when you're chasing points and you're tired and you're under constant attack from a side like Melbourne, you're right up against it, but they hung in there. That's the great thing. Like Sean Johnson in the game last night, and I was talking to Coops, I said it's amazing. I'm seeing Sean Johnson do things at this point of his career that he didn't do in his prime. Like, they put a kick in last night and he chased it down and, put a great shot on Nick Meaney. Just his leadership. He was outstanding. Aidan Fanua-Blake. Blake, he had discipline issues when he was at Manly, but he's gone to the Warriors. This season in particular, he's gone from being just, one part of 13. He's a leader. He's been fantastic. So they were really good last night. I know that all the side would be disappointed not getting the 2 points. Get that. But, there's continues to be good signs for the Warriors.
Yeah, speaking of some of those signs, I think a lot have been made of our poor starts to games throughout the season, but for the first 20 or 30 minutes there before the injuries struck havoc, I thought we looked really good. Did that kind of confirm to you that we're definitely a top 8 contender this year?
Oh, definitely. And the thing that impresses me sometimes with the Warriors, as you said before, is they've got a style of football that they hold their nerve with. Like when you get off to a slow start sometimes, if you haven't got trust in exactly what you're doing, suddenly you lose your nerve and you start to play away from that. Where the Warriors, at times this season, they've had slow starts, but they've just stuck to the script. And they don't try to do anything fancy. They just work away, kick well, chase hard, pour energy into their defence, and they work their way back into the contest. So that's testimony to the coach and the trust in the game plan. I reckon that's a better sign than getting off to a good start last night, even against Melbourne Storm, and getting run down.
Yeah, the thing with Webby, mate, is that he's owned this coaching role, you know what I mean? He's come out, he hasn't said, oh, look, I'm building a side, I'm actually going to go out here and we're competing and we're going to win games, which he's done in this early part of the season. He's under, I guess, immense pressure this week because of the loss of Tohu Harris, and you've got Jazz Tavaga out. It looks like Dylan Walker's got to face the judiciary. Up against the Sydney City Roosters side on Sunday, what do you think they need to do? Because you saw they looked like they were going to towel up St George in the game beforehand, and then St George come back and just about got them at the death. What do you think they need to do to win that game?
Kempy, they've got to tighten their middle right up. If I was playing against the Roosters this week, is that I would compress the defence and invite the Roosters to go sideways. The Roosters have a natural tendency at the moment to want to push the ball towards the edges, and when they do that, they're far less a threat. If you open up your middle against the Roosters, you've got to deal with Brandon Smith, you've got to deal with Manu, and you've got to deal with Tedesco. And they're going to slice you open. And the Roosters last night, when they kept the ball in the middle and just worked away through the centre of the football field, they honestly just made breaks at will. They look so dangerous with their short passing, but they have a want to go sideways. So if I was Andrew Webster, I'd be inviting that. I'll be showing them plenty of space on the edge.
Matty, a couple of texters here have asked that they want us to ask you if they think the NRL has done right by the Warriors. Obviously, we sacrificed a lot away on the road for the past 3 years. It seems like we've been on the road a lot to start this season compared to sides like the Broncos. Do you think the NRL has done enough to kind of make up for their absence? And how good would it be to see an Anzac game played at Mount Smart in the future?
I think that the Warriors deserve that game yesterday. I was actually, which I might make mention of this sort of the back end of the interview, is 2 days ago I was at an old teammate of Kempy and I's funeral, a fella called Adrian Bubb, and might have been Mark Sargent, one of the boys said to me that, we're talking about having a chat about the Warriors, and I said I'd chat to Kempy, most weeks, and one of the boys said, mate, do you think that the Warriors probably deserve what they, what they've gone through the previous season, almost having every home game in New Zealand? And mate, it's hard to argue with. Given the sacrifices, it wouldn't hurt for the other 16 clubs to say, yeah, okay, they did this, they were away from their loved ones for so long, well, then why not? But definitely, I was, when you think about that, last night, I think that they absolutely deserve an Anzac Day game. I think it'd be fitting.
Hey, Matty, just on the back of the competitions and the way that it started this year, you had to just look at the ladder, and you've got such a congested ladder. What do you make of the competition this year? And I was just talking to Surly beforehand that the World Cup it looks like to me has had a definite effect on the form and some of the durability, some of the players. What's your thoughts?
Kempy, I totally agree. It's had a big impact. If you look back at the NRL competition back in our era, the seasons that threw up weird results were on the back of the Kangaroo Tour. It was the Kangaroo Tour, the Australian Kangaroo Tour, to go over the UK and France. It'd be 3 months, and players would come back, the star players, basically have no pre-season. Oftentimes, I remember once Freddie Fittler came back, and might have been in season 1991. He came back and he was about 14 kilos overweight, Freddie. But that was sort of like, it just threw up weird results because of that, that all the top teams had such a large representation. And I think it's the same this year. There certainly has been. There's been so many players. When you look at the emergence of Tonga and Samoa, there's been just so many players in the NRL go away and play in that World Cup. It has thrown up some strange ones. What do I make about the competition, Kempy, is that I don't see. I see about the same amount of absolute elite teams, the top ones. But I reckon, Kempy, at the end of the season, I think the difference between the team that finishes 5th and the side that finishes 15th won't be much. I think it might end up being, 2 or 3 tight losses. I think there's a lot more teams. I think there's a lot more mid-level teams in the competition this year.
Yeah.
State of Origin's fast approaching, mate. It's just around the corner, and obviously there's a lot of players putting their hands up to get back into those representative jerseys. Do you have any smokies for us, or what do you think? Is Nico Hines partnering Nathan Cleary in the halves? What do you expect?
Yeah, I'd have Nico Hines in the six. I think he's earned it. Like Jerome and Nathan and Isaiah Yeo have got a great combination, but incumbency's important, but I think it carries a lot more merit when you're coming off a winning series. That hasn't been the case. Nico Hines has earned his opportunity. I think he should go in. I'd be, as far as if they go with Nico Hines in 6, I'd be going with Cody Walker in 14. That combination that Cody has with Damien Cook, Cam Murray and Latrell Mitchell. It's going to be a really strong side. Tom Trbojevic, there's a lot of... Look, if I'm Freddie, I go to Tom Trbojevic. I don't worry about the doctors. I just say, mate, are you fit? Are you able to play at 100%? If he says yes, that's enough for me. I'd actually play Tom Trbojevic on the wing. I think wingers in the modern game have bigger impact than the centres. I'd be using him on a kick return in tandem with Tedesco and Toto. And then the centres, I'd go Latrell Mitchell and Campbell Graham. So, New South Wales, we've got a very, very strong side. So, predictably, Queensland will beat us 2-1.
Hey, Matty, thanks a lot for your insight today, mate. And it's been great chatting to you once again.
Yeah.
You go well. You're an absolute goat over there, as Surly said. He's so happy to talk to you this afternoon. We'll talk to you again soon.
Well, Kempy, I'll just finish with this. I spoke to, talking to some of your old teammates and said that I speak to you on the line. They passed on their regards, blokes like Sarge yesterday and Butsy. And as you know, we lost Adrian Bubb.
Yeah, great man.
Great man, Bubby, through the week. And there were some old stories. I remember Alan Bell told a story where they got there and they were playing the Balmain Tigers, you blokes, one day.
It's true.
And they went to one of the front rowers in the reserve grade and they said, mate, you're going to get a start. And when they told them they were playing Steve Roach, Ed Med, Bruce Maguire, Paul Sirenen, he said, I'm going to need a week's notice. I'm not available. So they went to Bubby, who was a young, fresh-faced 20-year-old, and said, Bubby, this is what happens. You're going to play up against Steve Roach. You think you're up to it? He said, I don't know, but I'll have a go. They said, fine. First thing is, when he headbutts you in the first scrum, you've got to headbutt him back, otherwise he'll keep doing it all game. He said, can do. He said, the other thing we need you to do is just tackle your ass off. He said, can do. And the last thing we need from you is whatever you do, under no circumstances, touch the ball.
It's a true story. No problem. And guess what? He didn't touch the ball, mate. It is an absolute true story. The other part of that is Scotty Gale was on absolute fire during those rounds, and Bubby tackled him and put him in a stretcher. They carried him off and basically won the game for us. So, I remember that. It's pass my condolences on to his family and say hi to all the boys too, Matty. Thanks a lot for joining us today on Running It Straight. Really appreciate it.
Can't be good on you, mate. Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. We're going to have to get to the news here. Let's take a news break with South Seas Healthcare, Auckland's largest Pacific and wellbeing provider. Here's Johnny with the news. Yes, it's 26 minutes away from 4 o'clock, and welcome back to Running It Straight. Don't forget, you can call us anytime on the Kennards Hire phone line 0800 150 811, or text anytime on the Temper Bedpost text machine 8833. And we've got a couple of tickets to give away today. There's a few texts here, Surly. I'm just going to read a couple here from Richie. Hey, I have finally figured out why I'm so bitter about that result last night. It's because the Warriors team fought so hard, played well for extended patches, only to be let down by the normal thing. No, not their handling, but a couple of contentious calls. Proud of that effort from the Warriors and proud that coach owned the result and didn't make excuses. Richie, did you think that, Surly, when you heard the conference afterwards from Coach Webster? Do you think that he came out and said the right thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he seems to always say the right thing. Like, he seems so calm, so composed. He has a bit of a way with words, but you really believe what he's saying because he seems so genuine. So I love Webby. I love what he's doing so far, and he certainly owns everything. He's the first to put his hand up if he's made a mistake as well. So accountability both ways.
Yeah, I think he holds them all accountable. We've got another one here from Gavin and his family. The Warriors have given me and my family such belief in the underdog when things aren't going well in our family's personal life. We all sit and watch the fight, the get up off the canvas, the way they look at each other with respect, belief and trust, all the traits we want to see from them. They give our family a ray of sunshine in our lives, and we can only say thank you, Webby, and you boys, keep going. We believe in you. Kia kaha, Gavin and family. I'm pretty sure Kez will love that one. Gavin, here's another one from Sam. Putting it into perspective, we pushed our full-strength Storm very close away from home without 3/4 of our starting players. A man in the bin and with only 13 men for most of the second half. Unreal from the boys. Very proud. We were building something very special. Sam, I totally agree with you. I think that what Webby's got there under his tenure is a side that actually wants to play for them. And we're going to look at that game coming up this weekend, which is against the Roosters. There's some few changes, Surly. You've had a look at the team. It looks like Dylan Walker still has to face the judiciary. I know he's been named in the side this afternoon, but he's been basically handed a penalty, a 2 to 3 game penalty from the NRL. We're yet to see whether the Warriors fight that. And of course, there's no Tohu Harris and no Jazz Tavaga, which is a big loss as well, but we do get back Wade Egan. What are your thoughts on the team that's been named?
I think it's huge getting Wade back. Obviously, you mentioned no Tohu, no Dylan Walker, so just his ability to ball play through the middle just gives us a much-needed attacking option because, once again, a lot of the heat's going to be coming on Shaun Johnson in terms of creating our attack, so great to have Wade back. Interested to see if we do run with Tane Tuapiki. Obviously, Vili Vailea named on a bench. Normally, you don't name a centre there. Will there be a bit of a move around with Dallin, who looked pretty sharp there last night? So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes to this side. I'm also excited by the look of that extended bench. Dimitri Sifakula, he's a name that stands out, as well as Zion Ma'u, two young lads, young enough to be playing in that SG ball team. They're playing in New South Wales Cup and dominating. So they've both got big futures. Both recently got upgraded to top 30 contracts. So I'd love to see them add some starch to our middle as well.
Did you think, looking at the game last night, because when you break the game down, you looked at, Shaun Johnson had to play as well as Jerome Hughes. You had Dylan Walker had to play as well as Munster. Then you had Lussick and Harry Grant. What is it about the difference that Wade Egan's offering at the moment compared to what Lussick's offering when he's in the side?
Yeah, Wade, for me, like early season form, he was a top 3, top 5 hooker in the competition. Just his ability to get out in the ruck and ball play. He fixes defenders. He takes a bit of that pressure off Shaun. He's so direct, and he can play front, he can play back, and he's just another leader for us. Obviously, he's in that leadership group. I think he captained the side a couple of weeks back, so missing Tohu, that'll be huge for us. I love Freddie. I think last night he showed that he's definitely capable of being a starting first-grade player. His defensive work in particular is always impressive, but he just doesn't quite have that attacking arsenal that Wade gives us.
Yeah, let's have a look at this Roosters side, and of course, the big shift in the Roosters side is Joey Manu to 5'8". Young Walker's been put down in the second grade, and I just thought, Joseph Suali'i, the way that he stood up as opposite centre on the weekend was something pretty special. No wonder Rugby Union have chased them so hard. They have got, like Matty said, they've got plenty of attacking flair. Do you consider this game to be one in the middle of the park?
Yeah, I think so, and unfortunately that's where we're down a few troops. But in saying that, casting your eye over this Warriors pack, you'd still back the boys to go in and put a big shift. I think guys like Crichton, Sotili Tupanua, they're both starting to work their way back into form as well. So you'd expect the Roosters to start hitting their straps over the next couple of weeks. But in saying that, I don't know about you, Kempi, but every week I watch them, and I think this is going to be the week the Roosters finally fire. And even yesterday, I thought they were going to blow the Dragons off the park at one stage there. They've been a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, they're a bit scratchy. Let's just go through the two teams that are playing on the weekend. If you haven't picked that up yet, Tane Tuapiki is at fullback being named, Dallin Watini-Zalesniak and Edward Kossi on the wings, Marcelo Montoya, Adam Pompey in the centres, with Dills Walker being named, even though he's been given a grading for that head slam, and Shaun Johnson in the halves, Aidan Whanua-Blake, Bunty for the front row with Wade Egan, Jackson Ford, Marata Nuakore and Josh Curran. The back row, Freddie Lussick, Bailey Sirinen, Tom Ale and Viliami Vailea been named on the bench. The Sydney City side, the Roosters, James Tedesco is fullback. Corey Allen's been brought into the wing, along with Jackson Polo. You've got Joseph Suali'i and Paul Mamorowski in the centres, with Joseph Manu, Luke Keary in the halves, Jared Warry-Hargreaves, Lindsay Collins and Brandon Smith the front row, with Egan Butcher, Nat Butcher and Victor Radley, who I thought was pretty hard done by with that 10 minutes in the sin bin. Drew Hutchinson, Angus Crichton, Sotili Tupanua and Matt Lodge on the bench. It's a big bench.
It's a huge
big
bench.
bench. And Satili being back too, it will end up back on the edge at some stage. You know, the more games he gets on under his belt, you think he's pretty much a threat coming off the bench?
Yeah, massively. I think they've really missed him to start this season. He's been one of their most improved players over the past couple of years. His ability to ball play, he's always a strike on that edge. He can get an offload. And I think people underestimate his size as well. So he's a very tough footballer, and just on paper, this team is stacked. So again, it's just one of those weeks where you go into it thinking, will the Roosters finally hit their straps? Hopefully not. I don't think they will.
Are you expecting another bumper crowd at the Mount Smart? You know,
Yeah.
we chatted beforehand. Come down again. We're there from 2:00 down behind the posts on Sunday. But do you expect a big crowd, even though that they lost to Melbourne the other night?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can even tell by the texts coming through. You know, spirits are really high. Warriors fans were happy with what they saw last night. And look, our backs are against the wall. We're down a few troops. The bodies are starting to get a bit bruised. So I'd love nothing more than a sold-out Mount Smart, because talking to the lads during the week, they just say how big of a lift it gives them. It really is that extra factor that can get us over the line. Maybe it helps the refs give us a couple calls as well. But yeah, it would be huge to welcome the Roosters to a hostile Mount Smart. We heard Joey Johns and that talking about it last week. They hated the trip coming over here, so let's pack it out and make some noise.
And do you feel that I guess that tribal connection with the crowd? You know, like one of the things that I picked up last home game was how many people were dressed in a Warriors jersey, whether it was from 1995 or from 2023, and the flags and the face painting and all that sort of stuff. You got that real sense of, mate, I'm here, this is my team. Do you think they can turn it into a cauldron and make sure that when you come over here, you actually do hate playing here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Warriors, the supporters base here, is second to none in New Zealand sport, and I think other codes look to the Warriors and their fan base, and with a bit of jealousy as well. I think in particular New Zealand rugby would love to have that. Some of the numbers we're seeing at some of their games probably not quite up to standards. I definitely think other teams, when the draw comes out, they look to see if they're making the trip over to New Zealand, and I dare say a few of them don't want to make it. So yeah, let's pack out Mount Smart, get your colours on. There's nothing better. Sunday afternoon footy, hopefully she's a sunny day, 24,000 Warriors fans. It's beautiful sight.
Well, we know me and you will be here, and we've got 4 tickets to give away today, so 8833 on the Temper Bed post text machine. Text in any questions or text message that you have for us today. We'll choose 4 of those messages. We'll send you out an email with a ticket, and you get yourself along to be a part of that 24,000 people that will be attending this game. I think it's a big game on the weekend. I actually think the paying overs in the TB. We're going to catch up after the break with you about that and put some odds out there. So good chat, Surly. Love what you're doing. We're just going to take a short break with South Seas Healthcare, Auckland's largest specific wellbeing provider, before we come back and wrap up the show. Yes, we're 12 minutes away from 4 o'clock, and you're listening to Running It Straight. If you've missed any of the show so far, then head to the SEN app and download the Running It Straight app podcast, and you will hear, actually we had Matty Johns on this afternoon. We've got Surly on talking about the review of the game against the Roosters this weekend. But right now we're going to take a quick look at 3 of the top games that we've picked out, Surly, for you to give us your thoughts, and of course some of the punting that goes on with it, because we've got a few people out here that don't mind having a little bit of a bet on the rugby league. We'll go to tomorrow night. Remember, gamble responsibly, R18. Sharks versus Cowboys. What's your thought on that one?
I think the Sharks will be too good. Obviously, if the Cowboys had Taumalolo, maybe you'd look at it a little different. But again, they've been a side that has really disappointed me so far to start this year. I had them in my top 4 predictions. I think you can do that power predictor thing on the TAB app where you go your futures, and I had them top 4, certainly top 8, struggling in 15th at the moment. So keep expecting them to hit their straps as well. Sharkies at home, Shark Park. I think they'll just have too much. What about yourself?
Yeah, Nico Hines, he had too much for the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are struggling. They're really scratchy. The game of the round for me, the Broncos and Rabbitohs on Friday night at 10 o'clock. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm surprised. The Rabbitohs paying $1.78 at the moment. No Payne Haas, no Ezra Mam, so I thought they'd be a little bit shorter than that. Obviously, Broncos top side in the competition. They've only really, for me, played Penrith round 1. That's been their biggest test. They're going on a bit of a 4-game run now, where I think they've got some tough games coming up. So I think the Bunnies will get the job done. A lot of it, though, relies on old Latrell, what type of mood he's in. If he plays like he did last weekend, weekend. He's the best player in the comp. But some days you get the Latrell where he just looks like he can't be bothered. So it all comes down to that.
Yeah, Cody Walker too. I think with that one there, just have a look at the try scorers because there'll be plenty of tries scored in it. And of course the Warriors versus the Roosters on the weekend. I think the Warriors are paying overs.
Yeah, massively. $2.70. The line's 6.5, but I love that $2.70, and they're $3.50 odd 1 to 12 as well. So I think they're massive overs. I definitely think we grow another league when we're back at home. So it's that home factor for me. If this one was on the road, you'd be a little more sceptical. But yeah, I'll back our boys to beat anyone at Mount Smart.
Yeah, 19th man at Mount Smart, and I think at $3.50, everyone took the $5 at 1 to 12. Last night against the Storm. Just got a couple more texts in here, quickly go through them. Putting it into perspective, we pushed a full-strength Storm very close away from home without 3/4 of our starting players, a man in the bin and only 13 men most of the second half. Unreal from the boys, very proud. That's from Sam. And the Warriors played awesome last night. A few dodgy calls, but it went both ways. But the two reasons they lost is because they didn't sign Naz as a teenager. Dallin keeps coming off the wing. He played much better at fullback. Plus, we were gassed losing the entire bench. So very proud of the boys. From Brenton. Here's one from Ross. Hey Kempy, do you know how good Dimitri Sofakula is? He looked good in pre-season in the New South Wales Cup team, going really well, so assuming he is going well too. One for the future, and certainly he is one for the future, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's still only 18, possibly just turned 19 years old, and he's got the whole skill set to be a real weapon and a regular first grader. So I think Dimitri is a name we're going to be hearing a lot more of over the coming years, and I know the Warriors, they're really high on him as well.
Well, let's hopefully see. He might get his start this week.
Yeah.
We're just going to take one more break and come back and wrap up the show. Yeah, we're 4 minutes away from 4 o'clock. We're just going to wrap the show up. We're going to have some quick fire predictions from our man Surly. But just don't forget, if you want to be that one big fan, you can tell us how you're the one big fan Warriors fans by phoning 0800 37 GO Warriors and leave a voicemail. It's your year. It's our year. Hashtag maybe it is our year. Who knows? After the effort last night, I'm certainly feeling pretty confident that the boys are going to show up this weekend, especially against the Roosters, and give them a massive run for their money. Let's go and look at the rest of the game. Surly got Eels versus Knights. Who you got?
Yeah, this is interesting for me. If it wasn't at Combank, I'd probably back in the Knights. Line's 8.5 as well. No Campbell-Gillard for Para. I think that Combank factor will get them home, but it'll be tight.
Yep. What about Raiders-Dolphins?
Raiders at home, always hard to beat, so I'll back them to get the job done.
Yeah, it's not so warm as Brisbane, is it,
No.
down there in Canberra? Seagulls-Titans?
Have to go with Manly.
Yep, and shall I ask you this one? Panthers, West Tigers?
I back the bye against the Tigers, so yeah, I'll be going Panthers by a cricket score.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one for me because I think the Dragons will be buoyed by their performance against the Roosters last night. What do you think they'll do against the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I think they'll get the win. I'm keen to watch Joshy Reynolds, though. He gets the start in the 6 for the Dogs. I always love watching him play. To me, he epitomises what it means to wear that jersey for that club, so he could give them a lift.
Oh, there you go. There's a multi for you. And I'll just quickly go to Kez here. Kez, we found a winner for the tickets.
Yeah, kia ora, boys. We've got a plethora of texts coming through 8833, the Temper Beard Post text machine. After careful consideration, I've decided that Gavin and the family will get those passes. Nice. So, Gavin, people will be in touch with your people, brother.
Oh, well done, Gavin. And well done to everyone, too, who's texting. And on YouTube, we're live as well as Facebook. Kez has told me that it's going off on there as well. Surly, look, thanks a lot for coming in today, mate. We hope we'll definitely get you back in again. You're going down. You think you can make it down for 2 o'clock maybe to come and have a chat to me and Ricardo?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure I'm there. Wouldn't miss it for the world. And cheers for today. Loved it. Boy, yep. Time goes fast.
Matty Johns, bit of a legend.
Mate, just to hear him call me Surly, that's something I never thought I would achieve in my life. So there we go. That's a bit of a bucket list moment.
Have you ever called a game?
No, I'd love to, though.
There you go. Well, we don't know if Sammy's voice will recover. I know he's listening to the show.
Certainly my people will be in touch with your people,
Here
mate.
we go. Yeah, keep me on sick leave. I'd love it.
Well, we've got the Roosters coming up against the Warriors on Sunday at 4 p.m. at Mount Smart. By the looks of it, I haven't heard yet whether or not they got the sold out signs up. The sold out signs went up at Melbourne last night at Amy Park. Fantastic seeing all those people there. Anzac, mate, that Anzac weekend of sport, do you think we should maybe play a game in New Zealand in the future?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say the Mount Smart faithful will flock out to that. I'd love to know how many in Melbourne were actually Warriors fans as well.
Well, let's get a Running It Straight petition going and we'll send it over to the NRL saying either we play this game here at Mount Smart or we've got Surly and Kempy running it straight at Volandis and Abdo on the show. So thanks a lot for tuning in. That was Running It Straight. Had a great time. Thanks a lot for coming in, Sully. We'll see you again next week.